You're listening to The Film File right here on No Barriers Radio, the film show for film geeks by film geeks. Yes, back in the captain's chairs, me, Lee Ford, and him,
Andy Meakin.
And on this week's show, Andy, we have a deep dive, and this week's deep dive is the year
1978, the year I believed a man could fly.
We've got reviews of
Animal Farm.
Couldn't be more ripe to be adapted to the big screen, or is it? Of course, we've got our review, spoiler-free, I will add at this point, of Spider-Man Brand New Day. How could we not bring you a joint review? And then I'm going to give you my opinions, and I know it's been out for a couple of weeks now, but I finally got to see The Odyssey, and I'll let you know my thoughts. But before that, we've got some news, kids. We got the news. Let's talk about this week's box office, because we kind of hinted.
Well, it's safe to say that Spider-Man Brand New Day is a bit of a success at the box office, with a worldwide total of 927 million after its opening weekend. Spider-Man has hit the top spot over in the US with 355 million. Second place is The Odyssey, 51 million added to his total. Toy Story 5, 6.3 million for third. Minions and Monsters in fourth with 5.8 million, and Moana with 5.3 million, rounding it all out in fifth place. Here in the UK, Spider-Man Brand New Day, top spot, 36.4 million this weekend. The Odyssey in second place with 6.8 million. Toy Story 5 in third with 1.1 million. Minions and Monsters in fourth place with 778,000. And Moana in fifth place with just under 720,000. So a very strong opening for Spider-Man. Indeed, in the US on Friday alone, it did around 170 million on its opening day. Spider-Man films are always a success. He's Marvel's most popular character. And
it's like Batman, isn't it? You can always rely on a Batman film.
It's a no-brainer that it's going to be passing the billion pretty darn soon. As I said last week, this is the first year since 2019 that we've had more than 3 films passing a billion. And we've still got Doomsday and Dune 3.
Blimey, I forgot about Dune. How does that reflect on how cinemas are doing? Because, of course, COVID did a number on anything that's entertainment-based, which means people gathering again. We saw it with cinema, we've seen it with theatres, we've seen it with gigs. How is that reflecting on cinema this year?
It's reflecting well. It's important to realise as well that cinemas themselves don't need films to make a billion all the time. Cinemas can thrive and survive on mid-tier box office as long as there's product there. I mean, one fine example is this past January. Normally January is a drop-off month, but our cinema itself had a busier January than it had December. It didn't have huge blockbusters releasing, but we had a wide range of quality product which kept drawing audiences in, be it you wanted horror, comedy, romance, drama, whatever. We had a mixture for everything. So as a cinema itself, we were doing great, even though no film was a runaway success. I know at the start of this year, industry analysts were predicting that this will be the first proper year of recovery post-COVID, with it looking at potentially getting up to a 30% worldwide increase on last year. I think those figures are going to get revised pretty soon, because I think we're looking at a really strong year. Yes, we won't be as good as like 2019. That's the gold standard. But we're looking close to like the mid-2010s, around about 2015 kind of figures are starting to come back. If anything, and I've said this multiple times, this year has only suffered by having too many big blockbusters coming out at the same time. And so some films have fallen by the wayside, like your Supergirl, like your Masters of the Universe. Moana probably would have done better business had it not been in a crowded family market, which already had Toy Story 5 and Minions. Spacing them out a bit better would have maybe encouraged people to come and see more of the ones that haven't quite made it. But cinemas-wise, we're doing fine because there's been a good range. Things like Obsession, no one expected anything from. It's done great for cinemas. Things like Backrooms, it's done great for cinemas. These don't make a billion, but they keep cinemas operating. The only problem that a lot of these films are having is their budgets are so ridiculously high that it's a struggle for them to be profitable at the cinema for the studio. But that doesn't mean that cinemas are struggling. We're still making the money. It's the studios that need to think about how they get their profitability, and how they do that these days is the move to streaming. Once they realize they need to boost that profitability, they work out the streaming dates, they put it on premium video on demand, get some money back from that, and then they do deals to circulate it around the different streaming services. That's how they profit.
Let's talk about some news. And it's been reported this week, and I've not seen anything official. We know that the MCU are planning their X-Men franchise or series of movies to probably happen after Secret Wars. And what we do know is that Doomsday and Secret Wars are laying the foundations for that. But it has been reported that Samara Weaving has joined the cast as Emma Frost.
It's pinch of salt corner at the moment, even though it's coming from outlets such as Deadline. It's still not been confirmed from Marvel Studios, like you said. Deadline said the director Jake Schreier and Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige met with a number of candidates, and they landed on Weaving earlier this week. Let's wait for a final confirmation before we get too excited. But Samara Weaving, I love Samara Weaving. I think she could play a really good Emma Frost. They've apparently been meeting and auditioning actors all summer for a number of X-Men roles, with Emma Frost being the hardest one that they've tried to cast. There was also rumors suggesting Bill Skarsgård up for Professor X, Kaylee Spaney as Rogue, and Obsession star Indy Navarrete has confirmed to Variety this week that she met with Feige, and the X-Men role that interests her the most is Mystique.
Okay, well, we'll just wait and see. Let's not jump the gun. And I guess that casting news, if it is confirmed, is great news. In other news, John Leguizamo is eyeing a reunion with his Odyssey co-star, Matt Damon. We know that Matt Damon took over from Ryan Gosling on the Daniels Secret movie. At this point, we know very little about it, but if it's anything like their last film, color us intrigued. But I thought Leguizamo was a standout performance in the Odyssey. And it took me a minute to realize that it was Leguizamo.
He's always been a great actor who's just never really had the roles to get his teeth into. Excited to see what he's going to bring into a Daniels film, because look what the Daniels did with Ke Huy Quan, bringing him back into the limelight. Don't know what this film's going to be like. Don't know what it's going to be about. Probably still won't know what it's about after we've watched it. Well, yes, that's why we like the Daniels. There's been some sad news this week, hasn't there, with cancellations being confirmed, including it's been 7 years since it was first announced, and Mahershala Ali has now confirmed he's no longer going to be playing Blade. He spoke with GQ for the piece about his new film coming up, Your Mother, Your Mother, Your Mother, which he shot with Basim Tariq, who gave us Mogul Mowgli. In a statement from Ali, he says that he's officially moved on from the role that never came to fruition, telling GQ, for whatever reason, that project is not for me. If they wanted to do it, we would have done it. So I have to move on. And I have moved on. Your Mother feels very much in alignment with the type of work I want to be known for. I don't really want to be known for remakes. I'd love to do original work that resonates with people and impacts them in unique ways. So I'm good. Again, you had me under contract. They have billions of dollars. If they wanted to do the movie, we would have done the movie. So we're not doing the movie. The key bit of his statement that stands out for me is that I don't want to do remakes. I want to do original work. This is a guy who last year was in a Jurassic World sequel. Okay. So
maybe that's where he got his fingers.
There's something there. But there's also been the rumors and reports over the past year or so that the reason why the film hadn't gone forward was Ali kept turning down the scripts. And this kind of hints that maybe it is, because anyone who's read the comics knows that the Blade of the comics is a very different beast than Wesley Snipes' Blade was. And my suspicion is that they want to go for the popularized version of him, which is the film version. But Ali would have wanted something a bit different, something more like the comics. And that's where there's been this constant to and fro in. And if he has been turning down the scripts because they're too similar to what's been done before, makes sense. It's a shame. I thought he would have been a great piece of casting. Does it mean that we're not going to see Blade? I think we'll see Blade get recast sometime down the line, particularly if Ghost Rider does well.
Yeah.
Because if Ghost Rider does well, I can see Blade being introduced in a Midnight Suns project, which will also give a chance for them to bring Moon Knight, Elsa Bloodstone, Wong, and Man-Thing back into the fold.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what else was a shock this week, and a damn shame. is that Disney, even though the writers' room were on it, has cancelled Wonder Man season 2. I love Wonder Man. I thought it was one of Marvel's most clever series. I thought it was heartfelt. I thought it was beautifully written, and even more, it was beautifully performed. I thought Yahya Abdul-Mateen II was a revelation. I know he's a good actor, but I thought in this he was an absolute revelation. I loved the hell out of it. I thought it was an amazing series and raved about it all the time. Sadly, Disney's pulled the plug on it.
I know that Disney and Marvel have said that it won't be the last that we'll see of these characters, but it's not going to be in a Wonder Man series. I think it'd be a shame to pass up the opportunity to see these guys again. Even if they just want to do like the one-shot movie that they did with the Punisher or Man-Thing, things like that. Just give us a one-shot every now and then.
Yeah, where are these guys now? That's what I want to know. I thought it was a fabulous series.
Over on DC side,
go on.
Booster Gold is apparently struggling. It was announced earlier this week that it's completely dead in the water. Our Flag Means Death creator David Jenkins says the planned Booster Gold series for HBO and DC was dead. He boarded the project about a year ago as showrunner and writer, and he drew parallels to Mahershala Ali walking away. In his words, he said, "My Booster Gold won't be moving forward. Can't improve on Mahershala Ali's lovely statement, so I'll just apply it here as well." The Wrap did some digging and followed up on that story to find that DC have said that the series is still planned, but there's going to be a whole new creative team brought on board for it.
Something feels afoot. Something's rotten in Denmark over in DC at the moment. And I think especially off the back of Supergirl 8, which check out our reviews for it. But it doesn't feel like an even keel. Next up is Clayface. And now Clayface can I think can get by without being a DC movie, if you know what I mean. I think it could just work as a horror movie. But it doesn't feel, with all those promises made, and Marvel's done the same. They made promises, but they had a foundation to do that. And I'm not sure with what's happening at DC. It feels like we're on dodgy ground.
And over at 20th Century Studios, the proposed follow-up to Alien Romulus is now also in limbo. Fede Alvarez was originally expected to take over to helm the proposed follow-up. He was in pre-production, and then he suddenly exited early September last year. Rumours were swirling that he wanted to use Michael Fassbender's David character and bring that into the sequel. But Ridley Scott said no, because he wants to potentially go back to that story himself at some point. Sebastian Valicek, who recently gave us Evil Dead Burn, was then approached, but talks with him fell apart. Well, World of Real this week have reported that, according to their source, the sequel is now indefinitely shelved and might not ever happen. Specifically, they've indicated that Alvarez's exit sent the entire project into a tailspin, and there's currently no path forward for the sequel.
I'm kind of hoping that it is dead, because I don't think it needs a sequel.
No.
I think it should be standalone. I think I want to see those characters get to where they were going, and I'd want to see another Alien film. Now, that's just me talking. That's just my opinion, folks. But I thought it was a self-contained story that we didn't need to see those characters again, no matter how great they were.
We've got Alien on TV anyway, with Alien Earth Season 2 going into production. And there will be another Alien film, because apparently Brian Duffield is currently writing out a screenplay, which the studio are very keen on. So
there you go.
Maybe, as you've suggested, with the movies, they should be self-contained stories set within the Alien framework.
Yeah. And talking of stuff not making it, you were a bigger fan than I was of It, Welcome to Derry.
Yes.
I enjoyed it, but you loved it. Well, there's been talk of a season 2. There's been a writer's room, but there has, at this stage, been no green light for the series. So it's kind of in the same situation that we're talking about. The studio haven't said that they are definitely going to do it. That studio being HBO. It's been developed by the team from the first series to be set as a prequel to that particular storyline. But at this stage, it's looking like it may not happen.
The Mummy film definitely looks like it's going to happen. We know that Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett are directing the next, and this is The Mummy. This is the Brendan Fraser Mummy series, and this will be the 4th film in that series. Yeah. There's been rumours this week of potential casting, and that's, again, Obsession. Curry Barker's breakout horror hit seems to be making stars of its 2 main performers, because Michael Johnston who was the lead star of Obsession, is in early talks for a major role in this fourth film for Universal Pictures. He will be starring alongside the returnees of Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, and John Hannah, should the deal go through. No one knows what role it'll be, but a lot of speculation is that he's going to be taking over the role of Rick and Evelyn's son, Alex, who we last saw in Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
Yeah.
Not a great film. There's a lot. I mean, I've never been a huge fan of the Mummy series as it was.
You know what, Andy? I'm going to totally agree with you on that. I thought they were fun, but a little bit toothless.
Yeah, but the generation below me, these are the films that they grew up with. And so they've got that love. So I guess the comparison would be like every time you mention another Tron project, I get excited because that's my childhood there. Loads of people get excited who are 10 years younger than me about the Mummy films because this was their childhood. And I can kind of get that. And let's be honest, I mean, even if the films are terrible, Brendan Fraser is just adorable to watch. Yeah. So I'll still be watching it more for Brendan Fraser. But it's slated for a release date on October the 15th, 2027. Is it going to happen?
No, we'll see. Hold your breath, because you can't keep a good nightmare down. And Freddy Krueger is potentially going to be rebooted. Now, here comes the twist, because we've talked about this forever. It seems like it. Paramount and Warner Brothers. The deal's on pause right now, but it seems both studios are set to become rivals over the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
This reminds me so much of the whole Bond rights issue fiasco.
Yeah, with Sony and MGM and all that. Yeah.
Because apparently the report that we had last week of Paramount closing the deal to do a new take on Wes Craven's classic film, the deal was for them to have the rights to that first film only and not the franchise, which means New Line Cinema, currently owned by Warner Brothers, still holds the international rights and the rest of the franchise. And according to sources, Warner's are looking at making their own Elm Street film and are in talks with Lee Cronin to produce, write, and direct. So the race is on. Which studio can get a Nightmare on Elm Street film out first? And which one will actually go, you know what, we'll take our time and make a good one?
Yeah, well, it looks like Lee Cronin of Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Warners are looking to lock down Cronin. However, Paramount looks like they, well, not having a director on board, they do have Craven's widow and son producing alongside executives over at Paramount. So what will come first? Who knows? Shall
we rattle into a few bits of quick news?
Yeah, shall we?
Barbie was a huge success, but we've still not seen a sequel, which has come as a surprise to a lot of people.
Is it ever going to happen, Andy?
Well, if it doesn't happen by this December, if it doesn't start production by this December, then the rights are lost by Warner's and it all reverts back to Mattel. And everything ends up getting scrapped as to where it was, which means that if Barbie ever comes back again, it will be a whole new reboot. Time is running out. Gerwig indicated back in 2024 she didn't have any story ideas. Warner's apparently have been negotiating with Gerwig and Gosling for months, but Zaslav won't sign off on them as he reportedly believes that the offers, which include a percentage cut of film's box office, are too high.
Is it going to happen? I think that's the title of this week's show.
A new film adaptation of Stephen King's 1996 horror work Desperation has been set up for Searchlight, with Sam Raimi set to produce.
That's interesting.
Which is the first time horror icons King and Raimi will be working together on a project. And joining them will be Raimi's longtime producing partner, Robert Tappert. And finally, in the quick news, Mike Flanagan, who we've got a lot of love for, directed Dr. Sleep. He made Midnight Mass, Haunting of Hill House miniseries. He's got a new gig that was completely unexpected. He's
finishing Carrie right now.
Yes, along with about 400 other Stephen King projects. He's joined the long-in-development Warhammer 40,000 adaptation in the works at Amazon, which has Henry Cavill heavily involved. This was revealed through Games Workshop's latest financial report. Apparently, he's not going to just be involved as a writer. He's in talks to join as executive producer and showrunner, as well as director for what is planned to be the series adaptation.
Okay.
Did not see that one coming.
No, there's been a couple of sad passings this week, kicking off with soprano actor Vincent Pastoria, who's died this week.
Goodfellas, Carlito's Way, Men of Respect, but Sopranos put him completely in our focus when he played Salvatore Big Pussy Bonpensiero, who was Tony Soprano's longtime best friend who ended up turning on him.
He was the heart of the show.
Oh,
the sentimental heart of the show.
As a character actor, I mean, he did get kind of typecast as mob connections in quite a lot of things, but he did it so well. He was also in films such as Mickey Blue Eyes, Shark Tale, Money Train, Revolver, Juices Wild, Spinning Gold, Once Upon a Time in Brooklyn, and on TV, along with Sopranos, he's been in Yellow Jackets, Hawaii Five-0, The Practice, Law and Order, One Life to Live. Marvelous character actor who, in The Sopranos in particular, won all of our hearts and left us with tears.
Indeed. Passed away at the age of 80. He's survived by his daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter.
One last passing this week, and this is one that means something, particularly if you're British, and particularly if you're of a certain generation that grew up watching the antics of three absolute idiots on TV who did so many movie references with their slapstick and surreal humour, including doing a version of King Kong with a kitten. Yes, beloved British comedian, writer, musician, conservationist, birdwatcher, and wildlife TV presenter Bill Oddie passed away this past week, aged 85. Alongside Tim Brooke-Taylor and Graham Garden, Oddie was core to the trio of the Goodies. Everyone in the UK tuned in to watch the Goodies and laugh yourself into oblivion on a weekly basis.
It was so silly, especially if you are of a certain age and you missed it, or you're from overseas. It was so silly, but a lot of fun, iconic. It was a time for British humour that it was sort of post Monty Python surrealism mixed with just sort of general silliness. I remember sat there as a kid watching it every week and laughing. When I first heard of Oddie's passing, I had to use the words Ecky Thump, a very sad passing. Guys, that's the news.
You're listening to No Barriers Radio, and you're listening to The Film File, the film show for film geeks by film geeks. And if you're enjoying the show, then check out the Film File podcast, which you can find quite easily by heading over to your favorite podcast platform, searching for The Film File, hitting that subscription button, and leaving a like. More to come on No Barriers Radio, and more to come on The Film File. And you can get in touch with us right here at Film File HQ by simply
heading over to social media platforms, search for Film File UK. You can get in touch with us through there. You can email us, podcast@filmfile.uk. Get in touch with us with any thoughts on films, any films that you want us to deep dive at some point, any films that you disagree with our opinions on. Feel free. We're always open to listen to other sides of the story.
1978. I had me a blast. I believed a man could fly, and I thought it might be safe to go back in the water. Oh, there was also some strange guy going around talking about my precious. What am I talking about? Let's have a look through the films of My Life in Films, 1978. Dive. Let's start, as we always do, with a quick look at the US box office for 1978. Top of the list, Superman. We've also got Grease, we've got Animal House, we've got Every Which Way But Loose, Heaven Can Wait, Hooper, Jaws 2, Cheech and Chong's first outing, Up in Smoke, Revenge of the Pink Panther, and The Deer Hunter. In 1978, I'd just turned 5. I had started to latch onto films in 1977, so 1978 I was fully aware of any films that was taken to the cinema to go and see. In the February of this year, David Begelman resigned as the president of Columbia Pictures, with Daniel Melnick stepping into the role in June. The reason for the resignation became apparent when it was revealed that Begelman was involved in embezzling funds. This was also the year of another huge scandal, and this is the biggest scandal in the film world ever. The Star Wars Holiday Special was aired. A horrific mash of sketches, music, animation, all around a contrived story about the Wookiees celebrating Life Day. Oscar wins this year saw Deer Hunter, Coming Home, and Midnight Express dominate. So let's talk through some of the key films from 1978 that had some kind of impact on me. I'm going to kickstart it with Dawn of the Dead, Romero's second film in the famous zombie series. It's got a new set of characters, a new location, this time a shopping mall where the survivors have set up residence. And the film's not only, in my opinion, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, zombie survival film ever. It's also a great satirical look at consumer and mall culture. And it stands up well to the test of time today. There was a remake by Zack Snyder, one of the only good films by Zack Snyder, and well worth checking out. But that was not even a patch on Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Damien Omen 2 came out this year. The Son of the Devil returns. It's set 7 years later. Damien, who survived the events of the previous film, is now living with a rich industrialist called Richard Thorne in America, surrounded by power. His progress to world domination as the son of the devil and bringing about the apocalypse is definitely on its way. Once more, anyone who seems to be an obstacle mysteriously dies in horrific ways around him. It's not as strong a film as the first film, but it's not a bad sequel. So space is the setting for the next couple of films. Well, not exactly space, more Earth. The first one being Capricorn 1. Now, this is a film that I've revisited a few times over the years. It covers the first manned mission to Mars, how it was completely faked. The astronauts are taken away from the launch pad, hidden away in seclusion, as the whole thing is faked and staged for the world to make it look like they went on it. However, things go dreadfully wrong when the landing capsule burns up in the atmosphere, and so the astronauts, in reality, should be dead. This means that they know that they're either going to be incarcerated for the rest of their lives to keep this all hush-hush, or they will be killed, and so attempt to escape and bring their secret to the world. It's a great conspiracy thriller. It's worth checking out. And on another space one, you've got The Cat from Outer Space, the Disney great. This is a film that I keep trying to convince the wife and kids to watch now that we've got Disney+. It's a film which sees a UFO crash in America, gets taken away by the US government, and inside it the only occupant is a cat-like creature which can communicate and move things around via a collar around its neck. The cat is only wanting to repair its craft, and so it seeks the help of one of the scientists and researchers within the NASA compound in order to try to track down these items while stopping him from being captured by the government. Fun family adventure. It was one that I watched when it came out at the cinema way back when I was a kid, and it's stuck with me ever since. Jaws 2, a film that told us that we could maybe go back in the water, or maybe not. Roy Scheider returns as Sheriff Brody, who once again begins to suspect that a great white is terrorising Amity Island again, and once again finds that the mayor and everyone else don't believe him, because why would they listen to him? It's not like he was right last time. It's more of the same build-up, but there's some good aspects in there that make it worthy as a sequel. There's a focus on, again, Brody's family life, and works to the climax. The whole reason for going out and hunting down the shark is not directly to hunt down the shark like it was last time. Now it's because the sons have gone out with all their friends boating, and that's where the shark starts to attack, and Brody goes out to save his son and his friends. So it's got a more personal feel to it. Obviously, it's nowhere near the quality of Spielberg. It was Spielberg's passion and determination that made Jaws what it is. With this, it just feels like a sequel, but it's a good sequel. Grease came out this year. Now, Grease, I remember seeing when it came out at the cinema as a kid, and I adored it. This is the tale set in the 50s, high schools, musical, John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John, iconic tunes, adapted from the stage play. This was an impact on me as a youngster. Love this film, still love it today, and will never tire of it. And this was one of the films that really put me on the track to enjoying musicals as a youngster. Grease was the musical that started it all off for the young me loving musicals. Hooper. Hal Needham teamed up once again with Burt Reynolds and Sally Field after Smoking the Bandit to do another film which gave him an excuse to throw loads of stunts on screen with a loose plot. This time the film itself is about a stunt coordinator on an action film. Hal Needham was drawing on his own life experiences to tell this story. What makes this film work for what it is the stunt work. Once again, such as with Smoking the Bandit, the stunt work is great. Hal Needham basically delivering what he used to do when he was just a stuntman. And Burt Reynolds' appeal. Burt Reynolds has a charisma and a charm, and it shone through this era. It's one of the first films that used a blooper reel during the end credits, which became a staple of Needham's films after this. We spoke about Jaws 2 earlier, one film that was inspired by Jaws, clearly, but took a different approach, is Joe Dante's Piranha. Now, Dante is great at doing dark, satirical aspects of comedy and thrill. This is no different. It's a low-budget B-movie. It's got a charm to it that makes it entertaining viewing even today. It knows what it is. It doesn't try to be anything different, but it's clearly trying to cash in on the Jaws fascination. For proper horror this year, you don't get better than the film that defined how the slasher genre would work going forwards. John Carpenter's Halloween. It's the film that made a star of Jamie Lee Curtis. It's the film that really put Carpenter on the map, and it's the film that has been emulated, copied, sequelized, remade, but has never been as good as the first film. Absolutely brilliant film. If you've never seen the original Halloween and you've only succumbed to the Rob Zombie messes or the more recent films, do yourself a favour. Go back to where it began. Go back and love it, because you will. I guarantee it. Let's move away from horror and let's just talk about a film that people say traumatised them as a kid, and I don't believe so many people were genuinely traumatised as a kid. I believe that as adults they've watched it and gone, "Oh, I'm surprised this isn't a higher rating, and so I must have been traumatised by it." I think a lot of people retroactively think they were traumatised because I was a kid when I watched this. In fact, I was 5 when I watched this at the cinema. I was never traumatised. I fell in love with this film. I read the book, Watership Down. Richard Adams' book is brought to animated life, with John Hurt, Richard Briers, Nigel Hawthorne and Roy Kinnear providing voices as a group of rabbits seek a new home after their burrow is destroyed by man. Kids should watch this. It's a great film and a great story if you read the book as well, which as a child it will help you understand the whole journey of life and death. So when you lose a loved one, you will understand more the whole journey that loved one's been on, and you'll accept the death more. Wrapping people up in cotton wool and pretending that things don't live and die is no way to go forwards. And if you're treating your kids like that, then they're going to grow up to be, I dread to use the term, delicate little snowflakes. There's the recent animated adaptation, which was toned down a bit, but told a bit more of the extra story that was missing from the film that was in the book. And it's not bad, but nothing will ever live up to the original Watership Down adaptation. And another adaptation of a beloved book that came out this year is Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, the rotoscope animated film that was initially supposed to be part 1 of 2 and actually did okay at the box office and made the money, but they never gave the green light for the second film. It's a great telling of the story. It's got a style to it. It's got elements in there that were changed from the book, but when it came to Peter Jackson making his films, he was inspired by Bakshi's Lord of the Rings. Well worth checking out. It's creepy, it's eerie. The animation style is perfectly matched to the tone of the story, and it tells basically the Fellowship of the Ring and half of the Two Towers story. It doesn't continue any further, so it does finish just after the Battle of Helm's Deep, but well worth checking out. Before I get round to the most influential film on me this year, let's just quickly mention Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Veronica Cartwright, Leonard Nimoy and Jeff Goldblum. What a bunch of names. It's a remake that had a nod to maybe being a sequel to the 1956 film. Pod people, alien invasion, and a dog with a face mask. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you've clearly never seen it, and you need to go and see this film. It was chilling, it is suspenseful, and that closing scene is one of the most chilling closing moments on film ever. So I've not mentioned Jackie Chan in Drunken Master. I've not mentioned National Lampoon's Animal House. I've not mentioned Revenge of the Pink Panther. I've not mentioned Magic, International Velvet, and so much more. But before I wrap up today, I need to mention just one film. And that film is Richard Donner's Superman. What can I say about this film that we didn't actually cover in episode 16 of the podcast? Because if you go and listen to that, you'll hear me and Lee talk about all the influences and all the love that we have for this film and what makes it still work today. It's a stunningly engaging comic book movie with a great cast. I'm a big Marvel fan, but my favourite superhero will always be Superman. And that's because the impact that this film had on me. This caught my attention at that early age. This was the film that made me want to read comics. Because after this film came out, I wanted to explore the world of Superman. Over the period of starting to read some Superman and getting to watch some early Batman on TV, that was when my mum picked up some Marvel comics as well, and that's when I latched onto the Fantastic Four and embraced the Marvel culture. But Superman has still stuck with me, and Superman will always stick with me throughout my life. I adore the character. I think that it's the perfect characterization of hope, that we can all aspire to be as great as this person, but we will never achieve it, and that's what he should be as the ultimate hero. Christopher Reeve is amazing. Margot Kidder is absolutely on fire as Lois Lane. All the cast are great. The pacing is brilliant. It slowly works through the life of Superman until he reveals himself to the world. Lex Luthor is menacing with a small element of strange, quirky humour. He's not like a big fisticuffs villain. He's an intelligent villain, and that's what makes Lex Luthor such a good, formidable foe against Superman, is that he shows that you don't need might in order to take on Superman. You just need smart thinking. Suffice to say, this was one of the most influential films on me through all my life. And that is 1978. Thank you very much once again. I'll see you next time.
And now it's time for this week's reviews.
Let's go straight into the main review. And our main review, of course, we both got to see it at the same time. Spider-Man, Brand New Day.
We all know that Spider-Man fights scary bad guys. But do you know the one thing he is never scared of? Needles.
What the?
It's probably spider puberty.
Hey, come on! What's going on with you, Spider-Man?
Organic webs.
Oh.
Heightened senses.
God, that's cool.
Increased agility.
You okay, kid? Yeah, you're okay.
Spider-Man, Brand New Day.
I didn't know you could get that big.
This is going to be a spoiler-free review, so we are going to tread carefully without giving anything away. But this is the fourth entry of Tom Holland as Peter Parker, the Amazing Spider-Man.
Before I start talking about the film in as spoiler-free as we can possibly manage, I do want to say that I've enjoyed the previous three Tom Holland films, but they've never felt like Spider-Man to me. They've felt like a Tony Stark legacy. But the story for this film and all of this, which I'm going to say, can be drawn from the trailers. So I consider that fair game. We see Peter in a world who can no longer remember him, getting lost in the part of Spider-Man. Without close family or friends to ground him, he's become the heroic savior of the city, with no time for Peter to be himself. When a threat arises in the guise of a mysterious figure who can possess people and who seems set on tearing down damage control, Spidey must work to protect those he cares for, even though they don't know who he is, whilst he teams up with Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, and at the same time appears to be undergoing somewhat of a change himself and becoming more Spider than man, which leads him to seek advice from a certain Avenger who also has issues controlling the dark brute inside.
Very well done, without giving anything away. I think when this film finished, we both looked at each other and just went, yeah, this is our Spider-Man. This is nearly as good as Spider-Man 2, which is the gold standard for me. That's up there with Superman the movie as the very best that you can do. And I totally agree with you that Tom Holland's run, while he is the most perfect Peter Parker and to some extent Spider-Man, most comic accurate, there has been something lacking in all of the films. And it's not the spectacle, it's not the villains, the design, the style. All of these films, probably with the exception of No Way Home, have these films carried much in the way of weight in the same way that the Sam Raimi, certainly the first two films, and even the Garfield films carried some weight. And I'm going to give you an example in the Garfield film. It's the bit where Spider-Man saves the kid in the car.
Yeah.
That gives the film gravitas. And I thought that was missing. Those great dialogue sequences between Aunt May and Tobey Maguire's character in Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 about the worth of being a hero. There was nothing that gave it that sense of the most important part of Spider-Man isn't the antics, isn't the swinging around New York, because it's not quite as amazing as the first time that we saw it.
It's the emotional connection.
Absolutely, you nailed it. It's the heartfelt, emotional connection of the characters, the weight of the characters, and I think those have been sadly missed. While I've enjoyed them, especially the last one, they've not felt any weight, and this one comes back with it. It gives it a genuine emotional depth, which balances the spectacular set pieces.
The people around Peter Parker are what ground him and also what propel him to constantly be good. But it's key to the whole lot of this film. Even the villain, the mysterious villain, has an emotional reason why they are acting like they are. They had an emotional connection that they're trying to get back. The mutation aspect, let's be honest, it could have been kind of taken out and not really affect the overall story. But it's important for the depth of the character of Peter Parker himself. It's a representation of how Peter's losing his emotional core. He's got no real world connections. And so it's running parallel with the threat of the mysterious mind controller that he's started to become less human because he hasn't got humans to basically share his experiences with. As he's circling the periphery of MJ and Ned, but never feeling ready to open up to them again, you feel the heartache. as it's clear that he needs them in his life to give him purpose, to give him connection and give him hope. Without them, he's lost in his anxieties and insecurities, with the only outlet being to fight crime, which is beautifully shown in that marvellous montage at the start, which, as I said when the trailer landed, that all the cover shots that were getting used. And I'd said back then, that's going to be the first 10 minutes of the film, just a montage to show how he's just become Spider-Man, and that's all that he is. And I must say, the visuals throughout this film are stunning. We have the most dynamic camera that we've ever had in action sequences. We have choreographed action sequences that must have been meticulously planned out and look like they've been ripped straight from the pages of comic books. And of course, the comparisons will be met with Shang-Chi, because Cretton, in directing, has brought that magic that he brought to the combat and the fights in there, with completely fluid motion of cameras that always keeps the action in frame and doesn't use a lot of edits and makes them look gloriously sumptuous on screen. As someone's getting pummeled, you can't help but be surprised by the beauty of that pummeling.
I totally agree. I think Destin Daniel Cretton, of course, his second piece of work, as Andy mentioned, for the MCU, brings a fluidity to the look of the film without missing the emotional beats. That's nothing to take away from what John Watt did. I think they found their director, if there is going to be another Spider-Man film. This is also a return for John Berthnall's Punisher, making his first appearance in the MCU. And everyone was thinking they're gonna Disneyfy him and bring the character new to him in some way. Doesn't happen. He's still the same Punisher as the same Punisher in the comics.
Yeah.
Can make guest appearances in Spider-Man and then have a gritty Max version of that character. It worked perfectly. It creates a solid relationship for both characters who go on an emotional journey together. But if the Punisher appears again as a one shot, it's not gonna take anything away from that character. It will only add to him to be as being part of the Spider-Man film. So I think Berthnall was great. My worry going in was there were going to be too many cameos from other MCU characters, but it played into the plot. And one of the things I think works really well is all the action sequences are plot driven as opposed to let's just chuck in some spectacle. And I think what I came out of this film with is that Peter changes because he's changing from a boy into a man. And that journey felt deeply personal, reminding us that being a hero isn't just about saving the world, saving the girl. It's about holding on to something. And that's what the Punisher learns, I think, in this, is holding on to hope. It's not just people fighting, it's fighting for something that's worth it. And I thought that's what made this film leaps and bounds the best out of the MCU series. I think Spider-Man's greatest strength has always been his humanity.
That leads to the true heart of this film being the trio of Tom Holland, Zendaya and Batalon as Peter, MJ and Ned. Ned in particular doesn't appear a lot in this, but every moment that he pops up is packed with emotional depth that toys with your tear ducts. At times it reminds you, and indeed Peter, of what that friendship meant. And Zendaya, she gets a lot to play with in here.
Yeah, I mean, the chemistry's there between the two, obviously. And then it shows on screen. Hey, I mean, sometimes just because you're married to somebody doesn't always mean that the chemistry works on screen. This works in spades.
There's some nice little moments of cameos in there that made me smile. And there's also, I was curious to see how Tremel Tillman, who we loved in Severance, was going to play William Metzger, the head of Damage Control. And he's just a presence on screen, isn't he? And I did like Lisa Colon-Zayas as Detective Jean DeWolf, who's Spider-Man's only human connection since the world forgot about him. And obviously, Mark Ruffalo. Always a joy to see him get a chance to Hulk out once more. That will never disappoint, and it doesn't disappoint. It doesn't even feel superfluous to the film. It doesn't feel like he's just been put in for no reason. It feels, again, like you've said, that it's got purpose to drive the story forward. This, for me, same as you, it's not quite as good as Raimi's second film, but this, I think, is the most comic book Spider-Man that we've had to date.
Yeah.
As a fan of the comics, this was the character I've been wanting on screen for all this time. Tobey Maguire was a great Peter Parker, but wasn't a good Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield had the wit and the style of Spider-Man, but he seemed too cool to be Peter Parker. Tom Holland has always managed to balance both. He's had the like awkward, nerdy Peter Parker aspects, but the joking, flippant, confidence Spider-Man. But he was brought down by constantly being a stark tech reference character. This is the first time that he's had a chance to show exactly what his Spider-Man can be.
So that's Spider-Man Brand New Day. And now we're going to talk about Andy Serkis's Animal Farm.
Many seasons ago, we all dreamed that one day animals would be free.
We are going on vacation.
What does that say?
It says, Laughter House.
That sounds awesome. I love to laugh.
It's a slaughterhouse.
We're all gonna die! We did it! Animals run the farm!
Freedom.
All animals are equal.
What could possibly go wrong?
Our experiment is working.
All of us together.
It's time to farm again.
Never saw the sun shining so bright.
This milk ain't gonna drink itself.
It's supposed to be shared.
Noticing the days hurrying by.
There is no supposed to anymore.
This is less than yesterday. Or more than tomorrow. Depends on how you look at it. Move along, sheep.
Orwell's satirical tale about communism is given a new animated treatment in this film from Andy Serkis. When the animals on a farm rise up and overthrow their farmer, they set about creating a perfect worker-run society with firm rules in place for all. However, it isn't long before the pigs, following the advice of Napoleon, start to break the rules, amending each one to fit them, until they control the rest of the animals. So far, so Animal Farm, right? Oh, but I forgot to tell you about a high-tech corporate entity that spies on it all and wants to manipulate events to benefit themselves, which I guess you could say is a modern version of the neighbouring farm who try to invade, if it played even slightly closer to the book. But it doesn't, and it isn't. Serkis directs and also voices a rather annoying rooster, who immediately breaks the two legs bad rule anyway, but there you go, that interjects the acts of the story. A wealth of names to provide voices for the animals, with Woody Harrelson as Boxer the Shire Horse, Seth Rogen as Napoleon, Jim Parsons as Carl the Sheep, Kieran Culkin as Squealer, and Gaten Matarazzo as the new piglet character Lucky, whose eyes we see these events through. The film is granted a fun and energetic vibe, clearly targeting a very young demographic, which sits rather uncomfortably with the dark source material. Napoleon, in particular, is played as a bumbling and lazy swine, rather than being scheming and dominating. And as he and his gang start to control the farm, there is never a real sense that the story got there convincingly enough. With animation that is pretty much basic level for modern movies, this is a film that just exists. And maybe really young audiences might find some fun in it, but anyone older or anyone who knows the source material will find discomfort sitting throughout it. Then we have the end of the film. Now, this is something that the two previous adaptations of the material for screen have gotten wrong in 1954 and 1999. The novella ends with the pigs, now in charge of the farm, sat playing cards with the local humans and the rest of the animals looking in and unable to distinguish man from pig, as the new boss is the same as the old boss. It's a dark ending, but absolutely perfect for the analogy being played out. Each film adaptation has opted to tag some hope to the end. The 1954 animated version saw a new animal revolution overthrow Napoleon, and the 1999 version had a new human uprising taking back power of the farm. This time, a whole additional act is tagged on to give a climactic ending with explosions, floods, and a battle between Lucky and Napoleon. It's entirely unnecessary, and it only serves to further damage an already weak adaptation even more. Maybe one day we'll get a pure adaptation of Orwell's novella, but for now, the closest is still the 1954 animated movie, Just Stop It Before the Final Section, whilst this is certainly destined to be buried somewhere on streaming and best forgotten. With Serkis now 3 for 3 in making the worst versions of something, Jungle Book with Mowgli, the Venom sequel Let There Be Carnage, and now this, I can only wait with trepidation for him to give us the worst Middle-earth film next year with The Hunt for Gollum.
Interesting enough, this was distributed in the US by Angel Studios, who are known for their religious films and usually films of a more conservative, slightly right-wing appeal to them. I don't know if that's coincidence, having not seen this film, that's something that echoes within the plot, but interesting that they picked it up. I'm quickly going to mention The Odyssey, and now I know Andy reviewed it brilliantly a few weeks ago, but I finally got to see it this week. I think it's a breathtaking cinematic achievement. I think straight out of the bat, I think Christopher Nolan has combined stunning visuals with his bold, ambitious storytelling, and it feels oddly timeless and yet strangely, refreshingly modern. And of course, being Nolan, every frame is crafted with scale and beauty, drawing you into this epic adventure. I think the cast was brilliant. I think Matt Damon has never been better. You've probably seen the film. I think the appearance of Cersei, played by Samantha Morton, was the highlight, the peak of this film. Absolutely brilliant performance. If she doesn't get a Best Supporting Actress nominee, I think this film will do well at the Oscars, I think it's completely missing out. I think everything about this embraces the grandeur of the source material. I think it's again showing that Nolan is a confident filmmaker. He delivers powerful adventure, visual spectacle. This film is just unbelievable on the eye. I didn't get to see it in 70mm, and nor did I get to see it in IMAX, and I do feel there's something that I've missed out on. I was engaged dramatically all the way through. 3 hours flew by with a little bit of padding here and there, but nothing I think could have been missed because everything added up. But did I love it enough to call it a masterpiece? Cinematically, yes, it is a masterpiece. It dares you, as Nolan does, as a filmmaker, to think big. But oddly and understandably, I understand why he used American accents, because it's certainly not harmed the box office and made it accessible to a modern audience. But I do think the writing, especially with the dialogue, was a real problem for me. I think the dialogue was plodding. Some great lines, some great performances, but I felt it left me off kilter for a lot of the film. And I was discussing this with somebody else. So just using the word "my dad is coming home" as opposed to "my father's coming home," which is a simple thing to type, while feeling really modern, felt really, I don't know, threw me out of the film every now and then, which for something this huge and this spectacular with the small things, I never expected it to be let down by the writing and just reinforced by the spectacle of the movie. But it is awe-inspiring cinema, and no one does cinema like Christopher Nolan.
Okay, so that's our reviews for this week. Let's see what's coming out over the next week that you might want to see. Well, I'm sure that it's top of everyone's list at the cinemas. Paw Patrol, the Dino movie. Yes, the third entry in the big screen adventures of everyone's favourite canines. Definitely one for the younger audiences. I don't think I'll be paying any attention myself. Also, I won't be paying attention to Eli Roth's Ice Cream Man, because how Eli Roth still has a career, I don't know. Super Troopers 3, if you can find it on the handful of cinemas across the UK that'll be showing it, I'm sure it will deliver the same joke as the previous two films. It's not a good week for films, but if you can catch it, if your local cinema is showing it, Hunt for the Wilder People is getting reissued for its 10th anniversary. And I recently rewatched that, and boy, it's still great. And in anticipation of Practical Magic 2 coming out in a couple of weeks, Practical Magic is getting a reissue at cinemas across the UK. On Now TV and Sky, Seven Snipers lands on there. Song Sung Blue, worth checking out. Nothing great,
want to see that,
but worth checking out. And the Looney Tunes animated movie, The Day the Earth Blew Up, it was 90 minutes of joy, as far as I'm concerned. Netflix, The Last House, Dragon Wars, and Alley Cats, which Alley Cats is Ricky Gervais's animated nonsense. I'll check that out and at least have something to review next week. I might be pleasantly surprised. But let's be honest, what we're really waiting for this week, and what's going to make up for the dirge that I've just told you is coming everywhere else, Ted Lasso returns to Apple TV for a brand new season this week. And I am so ready for more Ted in my life.
Well, if you've made it this far into the show and you're enjoying what you are listening to and you haven't subscribed or left a review, please do so. And that about wraps up what we're going to do for you today. But before we go, we're going to talk about neat things, stuff that we have enjoyed over the last week that we want to share. I've got a huge amount of stuff piled up, but Andy, tell me your neat thing.
My neat thing kind of ties into our main review this week, because my neat thing is a drink, and I'm drinking one at the moment, Barrow, the Tom Holland non-alcoholic beer. We've recently started selling this at work, and to tie into Spider-Man opening, we've got some extra samples to help promote it, including some of the flavoured shandy cans that they do. And I'm currently drinking the Blackberry Yuzu one. And as someone who was never really a fan of beer when it used to drink alcohol, I was always a stout person. I've got to say that as an ex-drinker, these are delicious and sweet. The Blackberry Yuzu and the elderflower varieties are particularly gorgeous to drink, and they're just nicely chilled, and they're just so palatable. They're a non-alcoholic beer. They're almost zero, the 0.5% that you can get, which basically means that you have to drink like 38 of them in order to get even slightly merry. But as an ex-drinker who has been, off the wagon for so many years, finding some things that I can enjoy on nights out has always been a chore. And in recent months, I got a chance to try the Guinness Zero, and I brought my love of that to the show. And now I can join in everyone drinking beer with a can of Barrow. Recommend it. There's a product placement for it in the Spider-Man film when he goes into a shop, and it's prominent on the rack. But it was amusing that he didn't buy any himself. But but if you are trying to cut down on your drinking, or you are like me, you're teetotal, but you still occasionally just want that taste, I can't recommend Barrow enough. It's really palatable.
I'll tell you what, Andy, add me to the list, because I can't drink at the moment. I'm not a drinker, as you know. A bit like you, I've never been a big beer drinker. That sounds up my street.
Particularly their shandies.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because I ever since COVID, I've had a sweet tooth. Never had a sweet tooth before COVID. And that changed my taste. So yeah, count me in. That sounds right up my alley. This is right up your alley, my neat thing. And I'm surprised it's flown so much under the radar. And that is season 2 of Batman Cape Crusader, which landed on Amazon with all of its 10 episodes this week. Produced by Bruce Timm, who brought us still, and we're using this term a lot in this show, the gold standard of Batman for me. I've never been rivaled on the big screen, in live action, or other animated series, but Batman the Animated Series is the best of the best way to tell a Batman story. It's become iconic with performances from Kevin Conroy as Batman Bruce Wayne, and of course Mark Hamill as the Joker. It is still the best. Netflix had it until recently, and I went through all the episodes of that. So when it was announced that Bruce Timm was going to make another Batman series, everybody was expecting the same, but he didn't deliver. What he did deliver is a period piece version of the Batman set in the 1940s, with the costume being very reminiscent to that basically Bruce Kane and Jerry Robinson initial run. No gauntlets with the hooks on them, long-eared bat ears on top of the costume. This is clearly set in a noir-inspired version of the Batman mythos. It focuses on a young Bruce Wayne during the early days of his career, voiced by Hamish Linklater. If you saw The Brilliant Widow's Bay, he was in that, and he was in Midnight Mass. I'm thoroughly enjoying this. This is a very adult take on Batman. It doesn't shy away from blood. It doesn't shy away from shootings. It doesn't shy away from any of the action. What it does do differently, and maybe this is where some of the fans have fallen out of love with it, this is not a reproduction of the original animated series. I think season 2 feels less thematically focused than the first season does. But there are lots of quite interesting reinventions of the characters that makes this its own thing. So if you've seen Harley Quinn throughout her birthing on the original series, this Harley Quinn is nothing like it. We've had a female version of the Penguin. The Joker that is kind of the shadow in this particular series is very much a different take on the Joker. But it always comes down to, let's do things differently. We've done all that previously. And I think Tim has stepped out into a different world alongside J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves and tried to do something very, very different with Batman. I think it works, and I am thoroughly enjoy it. Check it out on Amazon Prime. And that, folks, that's us done for this week. As I said before, if you've not subscribed to the show, please do. Please leave a review. It helps our numbers. It helps us understand who's out there and who's listening to the show. And as I said last week, it's a real pleasure to be back doing the show. You can't believe how good this is making me feel. See you again on the Film File, and keep going to the movies.
And watch more films.